Hey guys, welcome to the Advancement Through Adversity podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Trueblood, and in every episode, we'll be hearing from real people who have real stories about triumphs and failures. Whether we're talking about physical or mental health, relationships, business ventures, you name it, there will always be setbacks. That is a guarantee. But that's where the magic happens, and that's what we'll be here talking about every single week. I'm seriously so excited to take this deep dive with you. So, with that being said, let's get started. So, this is actually a podcast episode that I recorded a couple months ago. Life kind of is funny in that way, always getting in the way and distracting you from the things that you actually want to be doing, which is this podcast. But finally was able to sit down and get this all edited and ready to go. I've got like 3 or 4 more on deck that I'm going to be releasing soon as well. So thank you guys for your patience and continued support. It really means a lot. I think you're going to love this episode. I really hope you love this episode. RodThePlanter is my guest today, and he is honestly one of the coolest, most inspirational, high vibrational dudes I've ever met in my life, and I'm so grateful to be sharing space and time with him and being able to share that experience with you. He's a director. He did Mod Sun's documentary. He did a film with Machine Gun Kelly. He's got this really cool Discord called The Grind Gang. He'll talk about it a little bit in this interview, but I'll also post the link. It's basically a space where he helps other people, raise their vibration and find their way in a positive, uplifting, honest, legitimate way. And I think that's the thing that really sets RodThePlanter apart from other people in the content creation and personal development space, is that it's not just about like a paycheck to him or like taking advantage of anybody. He really, truly, deep down is passionate about just raising the positive vibration of society and of life, and really cares about the individual and respects the individual. And I think you'll hear that shining through in this interview. He's just a happy, awesome dude, and there's really nothing else I could say besides that. So I'm going to get into this interview and enjoy. So welcome to the show, RodThePlanter.
Hey.
This is like an epic human being, and I am so happy to have him on the show, and hopefully you guys will be happy to hear this. So welcome to Advancement Through Adversity.
Dang, I really appreciate that intro. That's great.
Heck yeah, all the way from Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's where we're at right now.
I love it. What's the weather like out there?
It's hot and it's dry. It's just like you would expect it to be. Yep, it's exactly whatever you imagine in your mind of Vegas. That's what it is. We're already starting to creep up into the high 90s. We'll be hitting the hundreds here, pretty soon. And it's great though. I truly believe in the idea of a dry heat versus a wet heat. Like, I've experienced a dry heat and I've experienced both. And as long as I'm not like sticky and sweaty and stuff like that, I can deal with it. And so this is just like sitting inside of a hair dryer. And it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Yeah. You're one of those. Well, are you originally from the West Coast, or tell me where you're from?
Right. So I'm not actually, I grew up in a military family, and then I joined the military myself. So I've been traveling my whole life, and it's always really been a hard thing for me to peg down, like, this is where I'm from. But I pick San Angelo, Texas, which is West Texas, small little town in West Texas. That's where I kind of grew up from 7th grade all the way through high school, kind of your most formidable years, I guess. So that's kind of what I call home. But left San Angelo when I graduated high school. I joined the military, and the Army took me all the way to Killeen, Texas, which is not too far down the road. But it did take me back and forth to a couple deployments. I deployed to Iraq twice, and then twice to Afghanistan as a civilian. And then after all that was done, that was about 8 years of my life. I was like, okay, man, I want to go out and see some more of the U.S. and move to different places. So I moved out to California, and I lived in L.A. for about 4 years. And then after LA, I moved here to Vegas just about 2 years ago. So, or about a little over a year ago now, and loving it so far. So I've
There
been
you
all
are.
over, been all over the place.
But you mostly have stayed in the hot the hot
Ye-
climates.
Right? So exactly, that's actually so funny.
Lucky.
That's gonna be kind of my next venture to get somewhere cold. I've been thinking about doing that. Maybe Colorado, somewhere
Oh
still
boy.
dry but cold. I think.
Yeah, see, I'm in Northwest Indiana. We're like 20 minutes from Lake Michigan, an hour out of Chicago, so brutal winters, very humid. Like I was just in LA this past week and it was so nice. It was like 80 degrees and dry and it was it felt so good, but it was 95 here and it felt like Florida. Like you could pretty much swim through the air.
Yeah, I
But
can't do that.
it is not for the faint of heart. That is for sure. A lot of the
But
times I wonder why I stay here, and then I look at my property tax bill. I'm like, okay, that's why.
I like that part. I like that part. Yeah. A lot of people who have lived in cold states are urging me to just stay away. They're like, trust me, you don't want it. But I think it's always important in life to have a lot of diverse experiences. That's
Mm-hmm.
one of my aims in life, I guess, is to try and experience as much different things as I can. I'm a very variety driven person. So I want to try it out. If I don't like
I
it, you
love
can always
that.
leave. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the cool part about it. I mean, see, I'm going to have to disagree with all those people that tell you to stay away. As somebody
Yeah.
who is like born and raised in like cold and super cold, super hot, it like having seasons, it's an interesting
Mm.
experience and I think everyone should experience it. Okay, so let's kind of get into you.
Mm.
You said that you were in the military. What branch of military was that? Just
I was
straight
in the
up
army.
army? Okay.
Yep, I was a helicopter mechanic for about like I said, I did 6 years in the army, and then I got out, took a little break, and then did another 4 years as a civilian contractor. But yeah, working on Apache helicopters. So,
Wow. Well,
which
thank you for your service.
yeah, of course. I always make a joke that I didn't do it for you. Like I always hear people they're
Yeah.
like, "Thank you for your service," and I'm always like, "Yeah, I mean, it's cool, but trust me, I did it for the college money, y'all. Like I did not."
Yeah, right. You want those VA benefits.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I
It was
was really in
selfish.
a yeah, no, but I was really just in a situation coming out of high school where I just didn't have any direction. I didn't really understand my life at that time. I don't think very many people do understand their life on a profound level at 18, and so I didn't really have a direction or an understanding of what I wanted to do or who I wanted to be, and so I just kind of reached out for something that could create some type of life for myself or some type of stability. I just needed something to do. I
Mm-hmm.
was getting into trouble a lot and really just like I said, lacked direction or focus. So I was like, let's just go ahead. My whole family's done the military. I was like, I'm gonna just go that route, and had to join 6 years because of my career path that I chose. But
Mm-hmm.
at about 4 years in, I knew that really wasn't my calling or what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah. So when you had that realization, you pretty much woke up and were like, "Oh man, this is not it." What
Yeah.
what did you do next? Because you still had, like you said, you still had at least another 2 full years ahead of you, and you can't really
Right.
like bounce on a government contract like that.
You
So,
can't. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You
because
don't
they
get a
will
choice
find
in
you.
that. Yeah, you don't get a choice. So I think again, I especially in the military, I remember people used to always be like, "Oh man, you're gonna be a life," because I was good at it. I'm not gonna, like I was Soldier of the Year, and I was getting a lot of rewards and progressing quite quickly through the ranks. But uh, everybody's like, "Oh, you're a lifer, man. You're gonna do this forever," type thing. And I used to laugh about it. And I said, I'm gonna wait and see. I always never really saw the efficacy in spending a lot of time thinking about whether I wanted to be there or not because I had to
Mm-hmm.
be there. So it wasn't like I couldn't make any choices about that. So I had to just kind of accept that I was going to do this for 6 years, make the most of it, and try and take what I could from it. And so I got through pretty fine. And then it wasn't until it was time to make the decision that I was like, y'all, I'm out. Like I'm completely out. Like there's no like doing this again. And again, I still don't think I had developed a lot of self-awareness in my life, so I had no really idea of what I was going to do next or where I was going. I just knew I didn't want to do that anymore. So sometimes that knowing what you don't want will push you closer to what you do want, right?
Exactly. So then, what did it push you closer
Mhm.
towards? What'd you do next?
So I actually, what we talked about, I did get back into contracting.
Mm-hmm.
The years after the military and into my contracting years are probably some of my most formidable years in my life. Really, these are the years that I think shaped me into the person I am today. And
Mm-hmm.
so, a very interesting experience was after the military, I got really sick. Actually, I've always had eczema my whole
Mm-hmm.
life, and so and pretty severe eczema. But in the army, they prescribed me a medication to help me deal with that. It's steroid creams. If you ever
Mm-hmm.
heard, like topical steroids and whatnot. But what they did not do is kind of educate me on the downsides of taking some of these medications. And what happened was I got addicted to it. So my skin got addicted to the cream, and when I left the military, I could no longer use the cream. And so I went through something called topical steroid withdrawal, also called like red skin syndrome. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't very known at the time. There wasn't a lot of people who really understood what this was that I was going through, and it was me really having to educate myself on the internet. But without going into too many details about it, it was about a 4-year process of having to heal my body from this addiction I had to these steroid creams, and it was really really tough. When you think about it, your skin is your largest organ on your body, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
if it's messed up, I forgot to ask, can I cuss on here?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure how much
I'll
I
put
can
the little
censor myself.
explicit thing. Nope, you're all
Yeah,
good.
okay.
You can be
I
as
won't
free as
drop.
you want.
Okay, cool. I won't drop it like crazy, but so when that's fucked up, it's tough to deal with that, But I had to learn how to live life with this disease for, like I said, many years, and then in that time, for about a year of that, I was bedridden, and my family fell into some really tough financial situations because I wasn't working and I wasn't being productive or anything like that. So uh, then that's what led to doing the contracting. I remember my buddy came and he's like, "Yo, we're making like $100,000 a year over here," and I was like, "Whoa, I
Right.
gotta go, get that. Like we're down and out right now." So I went back to it, and then had my skin re-flared up and became worse again while I was out there. So now I was uh, dealing with this in a foreign country, in a war zone at that, and I contracted MRSA really badly. I mean, these are the worst times of my
Oh my
life, and
God.
and it'll. Yeah, yeah, but I think it's important to talk about them,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a setting like this, and in the podcast that I've kind of come to understand how your podcast is um, a lot of times this is the part that I don't get to talk about in what I do now, which I'm sure we'll get into, but
Yeah.
um it's those times that really built the mindset that I have now, that helps me live such a beautiful life, and I'm so grateful every day, and I experience so much joy and happiness today. But a lot of that was built in that really dark, painful time that I went through in Afghanistan and through this skin disease. So it was a really shaping time for me, but I think that's what really led me to being this guy, Rod the Planner, today that I am, and try and help other people with now.
That's when you were planted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's when the seeds were planted for sure.
Jeez, that is absolutely crazy. But
Yeah,
looking back on it, you're probably in a weird way grateful that it happened for exactly what you'd mentioned. That it without all of that like pain and suffering, you wouldn't wouldn't have been able to experience joy to the degree that you are now.
that's
So
an amazing understanding. Yeah,
yeah,
that's literally the where I've gotten to with it.
it's kind of a nice thing, in a way when you can finally make that connection that in order to really experience joy, you have to experience the opposite. There isn't any light without a darkness. There isn't joy without sorrow. All of it. You can't heal
Absolutely.
from anything if you don't have pain first.
It's
So,
it's totally true. That's the law of polarity at its best, which is one of
mm-hmm.
the universal laws, which is like you said, there's no heads without a tails, there's no left without a right, up without a down. Everything has its opposite pole, and coming to understand that those two things, in a way, are the same. If you look at it like a line, and you have one side of a line and the other side of a line, um, they're the same line, and so it's like when you do get to the understanding of like this is just life, we put our own like spin on things and say, well, this is really detrimental to me or this is really positive to me. Those are all distinctions that we're making, and we're choosing
Mm-hmm.
to title the things that way. But to really get back to what you were saying, yeah, I it was one of the things I'm most grateful for in life. And I think that's always when that's when you really know you've healed from something, or you've really learned
Mm-hmm.
to synthesize it into your journey, is when you can look at that pain or that really traumatic situation that you might be going through or have gone through and have appreciation for it and understanding that it is built up this ability to experience joy, as you were saying. I think when you get to that point, like that's the place you're trying to get to, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
place that I'm always a lot of times trying to coach other people through, is getting to that point in their journey where they can appreciate the not just tolerate but appreciate those things that
Big
happen in all of
big
our
difference
lives.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So, what did you do to, did you go inward? Did you have like a faith or spirituality, or where did you go in here to get through that craziness in a whole other country?
That's such a good question, Hannah. So I this is at about the same time. The universe is always conspiring in these weird ways, right? And
Hmm.
things are always leading to something else, and you can't might not be able to see it. But at the same time that this was happening in my life, or maybe right before I started to get sick, somebody planted this idea in my mind called the law of attraction. I
Hmm.
was dating this girl at the time, and she's like, "Yo, have you ever seen The Secret?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't even know what you're talking about." She's like, "Oh man, she kind of from my personality and the way that I was already at the time, that she thought that I would be into it. And so
Hmm.
I was like, all right, well, let's watch it. So she sits me down, we watch it, and I remember watching it, and it's there's been about 3 ideas that I've come to over my lifetime where I was like, I knew it. Like, like it's just like sometimes where things internally are possible or true, but it
Yeah,
takes somebody else to, show it to you. So
exactly.
yeah, I had that experience. I was like, dang, I knew it. And I was really excited from the jump to be like, oh, well, okay, now that I've kind of gotten this validation that these ideas are true, I want to try and put them to work. I want to see if I can use this law of attraction idea. And are you familiar with it? Have you
Oh yeah,
understood
I've
the law
seen
of
it. I've
attraction or
read
studied it?
it. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. The Secret
great.
is I am very familiar with it.
Right. Okay, cool. So as you probably have understand too, like when you first kind of take off with these ideas, you have a very rudimentary idea of how that works. And
Hmm.
so I was very much like, I'm gonna win the lottery. I'm gonna win the lottery, like type mentality. Uh,
Right.
but but I knew that I wanted to try and focus my thoughts, and I wanted to start using them. And I kind of tried to start working that, but immediately after that I got sick. And
Hmm.
from there, I think I turned to doctors first, and doctors weren't really offering solutions to me. They didn't really even fully understand the problem, so I knew that they couldn't have a solution for it.
Hmm.
And so I had to start looking toward, like I put two and two together. I said, well, if this thing is a real thing, here's a real thing I need to help with, and maybe I can use this idea of controlling my thoughts, or rather directing my thoughts towards health and towards being better. Uh, that maybe I could use that to heal myself. And there was a lot of finding a spiritual sense too. I at the time was kind of moving back into a Christian faith, which
Hmm.
you know. I had some experiences with that too. I remember I was just telling this story on Instagram how I was crying out to God one time. I was in so much pain, MRSA, the whole nine. I was really deep in the thick of it, and I cried out to God, and I was like, "Yo, God, help me! Like please, save me." And
Yeah.
he didn't know. They don't. It's not like that. It was like God just told me. I remember hearing a voice telling myself, "You have everything you need." That
Ooh.
you already have the power to save yourself, and you don't need, like, when I created you. Essentially, is what this idea that I have in my mind of as God talking back to me which is really probably my own subconscious talking back to me. But that's a whole nother podcast maybe.
Yeah, right. That is.
Yeah. It spoke to me and said, you already have everything you need. And so that reaffirmed my belief in this idea of the law of attraction. I was like, oh, okay, well, like it's saying, I have the control over this. I can create and shape this. Long story short, I tried to use that for 2 years, but 3 years, 4 years. And it was hard, but it's like anything else. If you train in the hardest circumstances possible, right? So if you're in complete physical and utter pain and you can teach yourself how to be happy in that time, how
Mm-hmm.
to have positive thoughts, how to direct your thoughts in that situation, well, then everything else is kind of cakewalk at that point, right? So I think
Yeah.
through that, I used the law of attraction. I mastered the law of attraction, and more importantly, mastered my own awareness of myself and my own thoughts and my energy. And I don't know if that healed me. I think, I don't want to sugarcoat stuff and like, oh, I used a lot of, I would say that personally as a personal belief. But if you're more of a cynical nature, you do heal from that disease over time anyways. I think I
Mm-hmm.
more so learned the internal strength. Like you were saying, I did go within and learned how to manage my own emotions and thoughts through that process. And so I got healed. And then now I live every life as this like incredible blessing because like if you've ever really truly been through hell, which I know a lot of us have, every other day is a beautiful thing every day you're not in hell is a beautiful blessing, right? And so you
Oh
learn to
yeah.
really appreciate that.
It is it's kind of an interesting revelation when you like actually get to the other side. Sometimes you're on the other side before you even realize it. Like it's almost like I think it's what is it? Is it I can't remember what movie it is. Maybe it's Shrek or something where they're like crossing the bridge and their eyes are closed and then they don't even
Uh,
realize that they're already on the other side.
Already.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's actually something that kind of has happened to me recently. Like it's been, maybe 5 or 6 years of just like absolute craziness, and the last like 10, 12 months have been kind of more on the other side of that, and it was literally just a few weeks ago that I was like, wow, I am not in fight or flight mode anymore. I am not in like this starvation mode anymore. I can actually breathe, and I've been breathing for a long time and I
Yeah.
didn't even realize it. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of amazing. It literally then from that moment on it's like the sun just shines a little brighter
That's
even
amazing.
on the
You're
bad
right.
days.
Yeah,
Cuz
yeah. And I love that you said that too, because I do coach so many people and they don't really see how much progress they're making. It is hard
mhm.
sometimes until you really look backwards and see where you've come from but in a day to day, you might not notice how much, you've really come, how far you've really come.
Exactly. Exactly. So tell me a little bit more about this coaching that you do.
Right. Okay. So cool. This is yeah. So we're falling right on line. This is exactly what the kind of the evolution of that journey was. Um,
Yeah.
that I think a lot of times when you master a skill, and using the law of attraction really is a skill. It's something that you have to develop. Like I said, when I first started using it or trying to use it, um, you don't really know everything, especially if your only basis is the secret, which is a very, very rudimentary like introduction
Entry
into the
level, like
idea of
101.
right. Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
exactly. So I had to master that skill and I did become really good at it. And nowadays I've kind of understood those ideas as personal development. Really what I learned through that whole process is you develop yourself into an amazing point of attraction, right? If you could develop yourself into this very pleasant, very grateful, happy place or person, then you can attract things from that place. But a lot of times when we first use it, we direct ourselves outwards and we think it's about all the external things that we're trying to bring in. So
Hmm.
uh, I left that, and I'm an Aries, so by nature I'm a hype man. I love to just help people, hype people up, make them feel good about themselves, and that's always been in my nature. And then now I had learned all these skills in the personal development space because I moved on from the law of attraction. I started studying a lot of mentors like Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, Wayne Dyer, like a lot of these powerful thought leaders,
Mm-hmm.
over the years. And I started studying their stuff, and so I just had all this wealth of knowledge and information, and resources and passion about personal development, and so I wanted to start sharing that with other people. And
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to start activating my entrepreneurial spirit. I'm very entrepreneurial. So I after leaving Afghanistan, I made a promise to myself I'd never work for another person again. That was my first promise I made, and I was going to start doing my own thing, but I didn't quite know what that meant yet. And so then I started to develop this idea of RodThePlanter, and this persona that I've created. Uh, and that person is now what I try to do on the internet, and through this persona of RodThePlanter is share that passion for personal development and growth, and self-awareness and understanding. So now I put out content on the internet that is all geared towards that, helping people become their best selves, really understanding their own mindsets and how that affects their life, and their experience of life on a daily basis. And so that's what I do. I teach people that. Like I said, I've been mostly doing that through the internet over the last couple of years, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
really excited. This is kind of like the first place I get to announce that outside of my own content, which is that I'm creating a Discord channel, a Discord
Oh,
group, which is going to be like
nice.
a small group coaching platform that people can join, and in there, get direct coaching from me, and talk specifically about their issues, and kind of help people more directly than just through content. So really excited to offer that here in the next couple weeks, and yeah, continuously keep building my business as a coach, but then also, like I said, just kind of increasing the impact is what I'm trying to do. Just trying to reach, I wouldn't say as many people as I can, but reach anybody who might need my help.
That is a really good way of framing that. Reach
Yeah.
anyone that might need you, because you never know where
Yes.
that is, and who knows, it might not even be on planet Earth.
I
There's
love
some
it.
alien on another planet that's like got your
Y-
Discord and is like,
You
oh
know what
man,
I
this is
mean?
great.
Yeah, as you might be able to relate to this, as a small content creator, where you don't have this million person platform or something like that, a lot of times we do compare ourselves to those other people, and it
Hmm.
makes what you're doing almost feel like it's not that important, because it's like, well, I only got 5 people that listen to my podcast, so it's not like this big deal, but it is to those 5 people. It is a huge deal. And so I've had to adopt that mindset over the years, that it's not about helping as many people as I can. It's like every piece of content is for the person who it reaches. It's not for all these thousands of views or anything like that. And so, yeah, I've really been trying to take it down to that individual level of like, let me just help one person a day.
I love that. I love that. And I think
Yeah.
at the end of the day, when you have that mindset where you're focused on like each individual as an individual, because I think a lot of people
Mhm.
forget that a collective is made up
Yeah.
of a bunch of individuals, and you can't have that collective without the one.
Mm-hmm.
And um, focusing on that one in the long term, I believe, and what I've seen in my businesses is just focusing on that one ends up creating such a huge domino effect that you're able to reach more and do more to more people versus if you had just been going out for everybody. Do you
100%.
agree?
Oh, I couldn't
Yeah.
agree with you anymore. I think that that's at the heart of any good business, is that mentality of the individual, and trying to deliver I mean, say what you want about Amazon, but the way that they've grown to become Amazon is by focusing on each customer's individual experience. And the
Exactly.
more you do that, the more you provide that type of value to one person, that person is going to talk about it and is going to share that with other people. And so, yeah, the best businesses know that they have to focus on the individual. But I think sometimes our ego gets in the way of that. Sometimes it's really our personal ego of like, I want to be, recognized as the best, almost, is like kind of hinders that and makes us focus more on things like numbers and overall impact, rather than that individual.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
obviously everybody from, like you said, an ego. I think everybody wants to be famous a little bit, but if you
Right, right.
can, but I think what I'm finding, especially in doing this podcast, and I'm also in real estate, and my fiance is opening up a record store in our town, and
That's
so it's
amazing.
very. I know it's gonna be that. That'll be a
Hmm.
whole. That's a whole other podcast too.
Yeah, I can't
But
wait to hear about that.
oh yeah, I'll definitely fill you in on that. But we'll
Mhm.
have him on this podcast too. But um, anyway, it's always like one thing that I'm learning, and you can probably agree with this. What we're kind of talking about is that um, like finding your niche in whatever it is you're doing, whether that be a personal thing or a professional thing,
Yeah.
is everybody's an actor, everyone's a musician, everyone's got a podcast, everyone's an
Right.
author, everyone is this, everyone is that. But um, if you really look at the people like the big thought leaders, they all kind of have the one specific, very small um, sector that they are experts in,
Mm-hmm.
and finding those, for like you said, like five people in that
Hmm.
small little sector that can really grow from that. Those five people um, make a huge, like, it's like a butterfly effect, because then those
Yeah.
five people go and take what they've learned from you, and they each teach five people, and that's how you really grow. It's not always your following, it's
Mm-hmm.
the layers.
Yes, and you start with that small seed, and it's so great too because a lot of what we were talking about earlier with pain, like all of us going through our individual journeys, you're never really as alone as you think you are. It's like there's so many people who can resonate with my particular story and the thing that I've gone through, and that now I have an affinity to help certain people, like people with skin problems. It's like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people might not care about that, but if you've been through it, you do care about it. And so it's like great when you can take your pain and turn that into your passion or your purpose. A lot of us
Mm-hmm.
take the things that we've experienced, like I know that how I felt in those times, and how much these ideas that I share, they saved my life. They really got me through that time. And so now it's like I feel this responsibility almost to other people to be like, to my people, like you said, my niche, the people who resonate with what I'm talking about, to serve them. And so it is cool when you use that, and you find that within your own journey, and people who resonate with your individual self too. And
Mm-hmm.
that, I think, today is like what you would call our niche, or and you grow from there for sure.
Exactly. So we've kind of touched on like the good part about the positive part about all of this, but let's talk about what I'm
Mhm.
sure you've had a lot of is the pushback. Um,
Mm,
because I and nobody, I don't think, has ever done anything, especially entrepreneurial or content creation wise, that you
mm,
haven't had your fair share of haters or pushback or questioning
yeah.
from people who, whether it be the strangers on the internet typing "you suck" on your comments, or it
All right.
be, your best friend or your family member who you thought was in your corner, but questions what you're doing. Um, you have any comments on that, about where you went, what you went through on that end of things?
Absolutely. And I actually have two ideas that help me a lot with this side of things, because I do talk to a lot of people. I got to admit that it's not necessarily something that I've struggled with a lot personally, because one of my gifts from the universe, and we all get gifts, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and things, and we can learn and we can grow and we can adapt new strengths, and overcome some of our weaknesses. But we all start with a base status points. But one of mine is confidence. I have this like almost unreal level of like, I'm gonna do what I want to do regardless of if anybody likes it or dislikes it. So I've
Mm-hmm.
in a way have a natural filter towards that stuff, but I enhance that strength by constantly staying focused on what we were just talking about. Who am I here to serve? And
Mm-hmm.
understanding that, like, everybody in the world doesn't like Pepsi. Some people like Coke. And it doesn't mean that Coke is better than Pepsi or any of that, right? It's just that we all have our own individual preferences. And I think it is hard for a lot of us content creators because we're putting our hearts and our souls out there. We're really we're putting ourselves in a vulnerable place as we create and and provide out there and puts ourselves out here. And so it's hard to handle that, but I've learned to not take it personally. It's not me that they don't like. It's not me as a person that they're hating on. It's just they don't like Pepsi. I'm Pepsi and they just don't like it, and that's fine. Like I said, that's totally okay. uh my favorite color is green. It's not everybody's favorite color, and it's like not because any color is any different than any other color. They're all just the spectrum of the same rainbow. So understanding that hate that we receive from or disapproval that we've received from a lot of people, I've learned to understand that as not to take it as a assault on me. It doesn't mean that I suck, or it really doesn't have anything to do with me at all. It's just them and their preferences, and I'm not their preference. And sometimes people have a funny way of stating, like, you know what I mean? Like, they won't say,
Oh yeah.
Pepsi's good, I just don't fuck with it. They'll be like, Pepsi's terrible, I hate Pepsi. Like, I don't know why we talk like that, but that's just how we talk about things that we don't like.
Right. Well, in
So,
reality, a lot of the times, the reason that they hate Pepsi so much isn't because of anything that you did as Pepsi. It's because they got hit in the head with a can of Pepsi when they were a kid, and like that stuck
you know
with
what I
them.
mean?
So it's
Right.
usually just a reflection of their trauma or something that they don't like about themselves that they see in
One
you.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Lately, I have been starting to get, as I've been doing more reels, I've been reaching a wider audience instead of
Mm-hmm.
people who are already within my bubble, because I did a lot of stories for a long time. But as I'm getting this interaction with a lot of the people, it's so funny. I'll get these trolls, as people will say, internet trolls, and they love to comment on my stuff. And I think when you're coming from that place, it's like, it's cool. You can respond with love, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so as they try to put their hate on me or their whatever, they try and poke something at me, I usually respond with an affirmation. I had a guy the other day. He was like, "Oh, I do TikToks and things in the gym sometimes." He's like, "Oh, you're missing your sets or something." He's trying to criticize my workout, and I was like, "Hey, man, you're right. You're right. I did miss that set. I should put my phone down more and focus more on my workout, right?" And I take it. I know he's trying to be critical. He's trying to get a rise out of me, but I took it and flipped it on him a little bit and took it as like feedback that I appreciate. And it's so funny how you'll see these people just completely undone from that. It's wild. Like, they're like, I was just teasing you anyways, man. Your content's pretty good or something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it disarms them in a way, because a lot of those people are stuck in a state in their nervous system where they're looking for conflict. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
provide that to them, then they usually, just the same thing with bullies. That's how you deal with bullies, is you don't give them the conflict that they're looking for. But
Exactly.
so yeah, those are some tips and some tricks and things that I've learned along the way. But my biggest advice in that space is understanding, like I said, who are you here to serve? Like, if you can really figure that out and realize that, like, it's not about, I tell people this all the time, it's not about you. It's not about you. This, what I do here and what you're doing in this podcast, really, anytime that we do offerings to other people, whether it be through business or creative art or something, is, I think that the focus should always be on the person that is going to be helped by it, or inspired by it, or whatever it is that you're trying to offer them. But it's not for the people who don't like it. It's not for the haters. That's not what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
it for. You're doing it for those people who are going to love it and are going to see value in it. And the more I just focus on them and just realize that, like, that's my only mission here. And it's not, like I said, it's not for all the people who are ignoring me. So many people out there are like, I'm gonna make everybody hear about this. Not for that. It's not. It's like, if you've truly put it in a place of service, I think, A, you'll do your best work, and B, it'll protect you from so much of the stuff that comes along, all those doubting things, the hate, the negative sides of the experience are a lot of times mitigated through service and the
Oh
mindset of
yeah.
service.
That is excellent. It's like, I
Thank
mean, yeah, you could choose to be negative and you could fight back with that. Be like, oh yeah, like, fuck you. What are your sets, bro? Like, let me see you. I haven't seen you in the gym. Like, yeah, of
Exactly.
course you
Yeah.
could do that if you wanted to, but that energy, that negative energy that you send out is gonna just end up bouncing back and coming back at you tenfold anyway.
You hit it. You hit it right
So
on the head, dude.
it used to be, I used to be, weirdly enough, a very like angry, sad, negative person, and was always
Mm-hmm.
like wondering why everything sucked so much and why nothing positive was ever coming of things that I wanted. But
Mm,
when then I realized, like, oh, like I'm just I'm the one that's attracting all this negativity. There's only so much, like back
mm,
to the law of attraction. One important differentiator, sorry, I can't speak, that you said that I really liked is that you learned about it, you spoke about it, and then you followed those things with action. And
yes.
that is where you actually see the result. Is,
Mm-hmm.
especially in these times, more so even I think since COVID and stuff, I see a lot of, um, manifestation and like affirmations and positive rah rah on the internet, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people subscribe to that, but a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't actually, um, act on it. They say, "Oh, okay,
Mm,
I am positive," but then they don't do a positive thing, or I am wealthy, but they don't do
mm-hmm.
anything to add to their wealth. I'm abundant,
True.
but they don't. Yeah. So,
No, you're totally right, and you and it's a lot of how I developed my philosophy now outside of just the idea of a law of attraction, right? Is because I also saw that as a pitfall in a lot of people's experience with the idea, and so I've really started to what I kind of teach now, and I guess in my own philosophy is the idea of spirit, mind, and body, right? And
mhm,
that we all have a spirit, mind, and body. I feel like it's a pretty universal idea that most people can get down with. Some people have other entities, some people have less, whatever. But this idea that we have different energies that make ourselves up, and you know, to manifest or to use the law of attraction, you can't just use one facet of your being. So, like you're saying,
mhm,
you can't just think your way there. That's a part of it, and it's a huge part. But it's like a triangle. You need all facets of that triangle. All sides have to be there to complete that triangle, and so it's like a lot of times using our thoughts can help us create a belief. And a belief is like a spiritual thing, it's like a faith, and so you have to have that belief too, that what you want is possible, or that it's coming to you, or whatever the case. So you have to have it kind of anchored in your spirit through a belief. But sometimes you need positive thought to either create that belief or to um, reinforce that belief. But then you also have a body too, and your body is designed to take action. That's all it does, is it allows your mind a vehicle to enact things into the world, to pick things up, touch them, move them. Just like I said, it's embodied in action, and you need that body part of it too. You need the actions that you take every day that align with your thoughts, that align with your beliefs. And I think that when you put all three of those energies towards something, uh, then it manifests so quickly, and in such an easy way too. Sometimes the
mhm.
actions aren't even what you think that they have to be, but you have to put all three of those things into practice for sure.
I love that. So, what advice would you have for somebody who, maybe has one part, they've read the books and they follow the happy accounts and all that stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
they're not really sure how to even take that first step, because we all know that's the hardest part. An object that is
Yeah.
not in motion will not. You have to actually
Right.
put energy into it. So, what advice do
Yes.
you have for somebody who knows, maybe what they want to be, or how they want to feel, but they're not really sure how to actually like lift their foot up and take the step?
Mm. So as we were talking about with the this three pronged approach or philosophy, I think that each one of those energies is uh, a master, I guess, of that certain theme, right?
Mm-hmm.
Action being embodied by body, and thoughts with your mind, and your spirit through beliefs. And so, what I kind of teach people is you work on one at a time, and
Mm-hmm.
you develop your connection to that part of you, and it will interact and influence the others. They're all working together, so they all add up to who is you. So it's like, so
Mm-hmm.
what I'll say sometimes is like, maybe you don't have a good plan which is a mind activity. You haven't logically thought out your way to your dream, whatever your dream might be. You don't know how you're going to write a book, right? And so, or how you're going to publish a book. Let's say that, so you might not know the plan and like the steps to take. You haven't really thought that out yet. But you could have a belief, though. You could believe that it's possible that you can write this book. And so maybe I would start there. Maybe I would bolster my belief, and I always say, like I said, use one of those actions. So I would spend time in affirmations and hyping myself up, because I do think that after you've hyped yourself up so much, it's not going to create the published book. No. But it might influence you to start thinking about it differently. And
Mm-hmm.
as you think about it differently, you might come up with some type of plan, right? You might get some seedling idea of like, oh, well, maybe if I talk to so-and-so, or if I, you might start thinking, well, I could publish a book, but I haven't even written a book yet. So like, maybe I should just
Yeah.
start there, is like writing the book. This belief that it's
Mm-hmm.
possible, I think, is the starting point. And so long story short is, use whatever part of you that you can, to start influencing all of your energies together. Sometimes this happens when I talk to a lot of people, they're low in spirit. They don't have a lot of self-esteem or belief in themselves, or belief in their possibilities, and they don't have any plan either, and they don't have any of that. I usually push those people towards a fitness journey, right? The
Oh,
reason is not because it matters about, but like, going on a fitness journey can do so much to raise your confidence, your belief in yourself. You test yourself daily, your spirit and your body. So and once you start getting in that vibration of being physically healthy, all those other energies start changing. You start believing different things, you start thinking different thoughts. So that's my advice to anybody, is like, if all you have right now is your thoughts, you all you have is the ability to control your thoughts and direct them, then yeah, keep directing them in a positive way, and keep just thinking on your thing that you want to manifest, and understanding that it's not going to lead you to the thing. I'm not going to think my way to a Ferrari, but it will think me to a belief, and I can use that belief to start taking some action, right? So
mm-hmm.
and then it doesn't matter, even other way around. You don't have no plan, you don't have no belief, you could just start taking dumb action. There's some people out here who just like, they're just
Just
do
hitting the
so much.
swinging the bat.
You know what I mean? Just start getting their hands dirty and stuff, and you'll be surprised at what kind of doors that might open, or lead you into some other type of opportunity or idea or whatever. So anyways, just grab whatever you can, and just start developing that and working on that and strengthening that.
That is excellent advice. I really like that a lot,
Thanks.
and I love the fact that you brought up the fitness aspect of it too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of on that. I'm kind of in a fitness journey myself. I had like basically a near death experience back in February,
Yeah.
and yeah, ended up like multiple blood transfusion, like days in the hospital, like a major surgery. I went from being generally healthy person, like like
Mm-hmm.
working out a few times a week, like using the weights and stuff, to literally not even being able to pick up a water bottle or like
Oh my
walk
gosh.
across my house. Yeah.
Oh
And I
my
had
gosh.
to retrain my body to do all of that stuff basically.
Oh wow.
And yeah, looking back, I'm still like, I literally cannot believe that happened. but
Right.
but back to what we had said at the beginning, I am so grateful for the fact that that happened,
Mm,
because getting in touch with my mortality,
mm,
like really meeting it for real, and then uh, basically forcing my entire body to restart over, and
mm-hmm.
like literally having nothing else but to um, take it one day at a time and start. I have to heal, so I have to eat well, and okay, like,
Mm-hmm.
I have to put in movement every single day, because
Yeah.
otherwise I'm not going to get stronger. And in doing that and getting through all of that, it made my mind so much sharper. It
Yes.
made, all of it. And
Yeah.
if it, and even just now, like have been doing, do you know about 75 hard?
I do. So I was gonna bring that up. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I'm so
Yeah.
inspired, because I just heard in your last podcast that you were on a 75 hard. So to hear you
Yeah.
going from that place all the way to a 75 hard is just like super inspiring.
Yeah, so actually, honesty, I did fail 75 hard. I talked to a coach and kind of find out I was not eating the way that was actually like the best for my body that I thought in the
Mm-hmm.
way that I thought I was. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
meeting my nutritional goals the way that I thought I was, and I felt like I got punched in the face, and I was like, oh my god, like like 20 something days in, and like I thought I was doing so well, and kind of find out I'm actually like not doing well at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it that actually, when that happened, I literally went to the gym and like had the hardest, most intense workout ever, and then came home and was like, let's go. and and now like using that for like fuel in my fitness and stuff, as fire in my business and in my podcast, and like
Yes.
being able to meet those physical goals makes me so much more confident and uh like convinced, I guess, that I can in fact do the hard things in
There it
business
is.
and in my personal life. And it's like, oh my god, like I realize now how simple it is. I'm like, why did it take me so long to figure this out?
And it does though.
Like,
It's crazy. All this stuff is so simple. I do talk to a lot of people. I'm like, you'd be surprised, how many people just don't drink water. Like just water, like alone is like that's one. It's so we all know it, but it's easy to drink
mm-hmm.
Coke. It's easy to drink juice instead. And so I feel what you're saying, but it is amazing to hear you actually taking on that journey and to see that it has had a lot of the similar benefits for you as it's had for me, as I've studied it's had for a lot of people. It really does
Mm-hmm.
do that to me, for me too.
It is true. And I would like to preface too, like fitness doesn't necessarily have to mean like CrossFit and marathons and Ironmans
Mm-mm,
and like, deadlifting
mm-mm.
5 million pounds. Like literally fitness could just be going outside and like doing yoga on your deck, or taking a walk in the park, or like,
100%.
even just like parking further away, or taking the stairs, or like you said, just drink more water. It doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be a huge, profound, massive change to create
Yeah.
massive, profound change. It's just that little tiny tweak is what
Yeah.
sets it off. Because then that 1 mile walk turns into 2 and turns into 5. And then maybe 6 months
Right.
down the road, then that's when you get to the 5K.
Yeah,
And
100%. And I that's such a good distinction to make. One that I'm also often trying to help people understand is like, it's about so much more than just looking good. That's what I've noticed
mm-hmm,
in our society and our culture today. Like fitness is just tied to your physical appearance, and it's really has nothing to do with that. Personally, I believe that it's so much more about the mental health benefits. It's already proven just a 30 minutes of light exercise, like you said, even just walking around the block, or anything really that just gets your heart rate up a little bit and maybe drops a little bit of sweat for you, does so much to release dopamine and serotonin in the brain,
mm-hmm,
and actually produces feel good chemicals, which reduce stress. One of the number one causes of probably like 85%, just pulled that out of my ass, but I'm just saying, like, most diseases are caused by stress. Like if you could look up
yes.
anything right now, and one of the WebMD is going to tell you stress. It's like in there for almost everything. High blood pressure, uh, obesity, like just a lot of stuff, really, a lot of diseases that we experience, migraines, you name it, dude. Anxiety. Anxiety
Mm-hmm,
literally is just a buildup of stress in the system. So it's like we don't have a lot of tools at our disposal to dispose of that stress outside of some type of physical activity. So I'm like, it's, to me, it's more about health than it is fitness, like you were just saying too. It's like just eating healthy is not about having a six pack. It's about like having higher energy levels to be able to experience life at its fullest. And as you've
mm-hmm.
experienced, and I've experienced, a lot of people, when you lose your health, when your health is taken from you, nothing else matters. Right? Like nothing else
No.
matters. Your relationships, your money, your any of that is like out the window if you're facing death. And so I think that's having that fundamental block of just being healthy in your body does so much to live a fulfilled life, and live
Oh
it to
yeah.
its fullest too.
Exactly. And like you were saying before too, like the water thing, all of those issues that a lot of people struggle with, drink like
Drink
numero
more
uno,
water.
drink more
Yep.
water. Go to Amazon. Like I'm gonna link it. I got a gallon water bottle for like $12.
Love it.
BPA free, like all the good stuff. I fill it up once a day. I keep it with me everywhere I go. It's like this huge,
Yeah.
gigantic jug. I don't have it with me right now,
Yeah.
ironically enough, but it is. And then it's got like the little things on the side. It'll be like 4 o'clock, and the thing is like on 11 a.m. I'm like, oh, I gotta drink
Oh
more
yeah.
water, and
Yeah.
that
I've seen those
just
jugs. Almost got one.
definitely do it. It is
Yeah.
it's great, and it's a good conversation piece too. Like I've literally met people that I'm friends with now, or that like I've got business dealings with and stuff now, literally because they just commented on my water bottle. so
Oh, I feel that
so
one.
yeah, you never know when something like that is gonna come up.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I love that. Link them to my hydro flask too. I really appreciated it.
What is
It's a
that? Tell me,
lifesaver. No, it's
what
just
is
a
the hydro?
canteen. Like you said, this is my canteen. It's the Hydro Flask. They're not sponsoring today's podcast, but we wish they were.
Yeah,
And
yeah, right. One day.
yeah, they have a lot. They have a lot of different like accessory caps. So you can get straw, you can get lid, you can get whatever. They're metal. This one I've actually dropped like 1,800 times, so it's like all dented up and everything. But
Nice.
yeah, it's a lifesaver to me too. Like you said, just get a water bottle that like lives with you, and it's part of my everyday carry.
Hmm.
I take that thing everywhere, and it will help you promote drinking your water. But dude, these little changes, like you said, it's like that's one thing I always encourage people on in any of their personal development journeys. A lot of times we just human nature, we want to do it all at once. We want to have the
Hmm.
result tomorrow, and I think you see better results with just consistency over time. And so you just
Hmm.
take one little thing. You don't have to change your whole life today. You don't have to, fix all your problems in one day. Just drink more water, and you'd be surprised at how that little step, that like you said, that working out led to showing up different in your business and showing up differently
Hmm.
in your relationships and in your life and everything. So it's like just these little steps that we take to better ourselves in some way. They are seeds planted, and not to get on too much tangent, but that's like why I picked the whole Rod the Planner theme and everything. Is like when your personal development journey is that it's planting seeds, and not every seed grows. Not every seed, like, it depends on where it lands and what timing and seasons, but it's this idea that this oak tree grows into this mighty, mighty tree over this small, steady. You don't see it really happening, but it's happening
Hmm.
every day. A little change here and there.
Exactly. And it all stemmed because like a squirrel decided one day it was going to bury a nut and couldn't find it. And like now it's like an oak tree that's
Exactly.
150 years old. Like, wow.
Dead ass. Yeah, it's an amazing,
Exactly.
amazing process. Life.
So that is actually perfect as a closing thought. I just printed this out. I randomly like came up with this like last night, and I felt like having to type it all out, but I'm glad that what you said about just like the little tiny thing. So I put together like on a scale of 1 to 10, like every single aspect, like personal, business, financial, mental, physical, spiritual health, your friendships, like all of it. Like scale of 1 to 10, where are you at right now? And then like
Mm.
imagine your 10 out of 10 of each of those things, and like write it out and be very specific. Like what does it look like in
Mhm.
your personal relationships, and what does it look like for your hobbies and whatever, if it's 10 out of 10. And then you kind of basically like break it down even further. Okay, so what do you need to do to get to from that 4 maybe that you're at to get to the 10? Okay, now you've got like 3 to 5 milestones. Now let's break that down even further. What are you going to do today? What are you
Mm.
going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do over the course of 3 months? Pick like one thing out of that whole list. And then if so anyway, I created that.
Amazing.
I'll put a little PDF thing in the show notes too, if anybody also wants to do I guess it's considered a life audit.
Yeah,
um
it's a self. I'm actually developing a product that's very similar to that too right now. So
oh,
it's like,
cool.
uh, yeah, I love where you're going with that. I was just about to ask. I was like, is this free? This is a free
Yeah,
resource you're offering? Because
absolutely.
that's
It was
amazing.
literally
That's
something I
amazing.
created for myself because I have one of
Yeah.
those brains that's like always on, and there's like
Mhm.
always 100,000 like ideas and thoughts and concepts of everything that
Yeah.
I need to do, that sometimes I get into the bad habit of completely shutting down and doing nothing. because
Mm-hmm.
there's so much input coming. I
Yeah.
can't do it's all like static. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I came home from California and I was like, okay, I'm feeling fresh, but my brain is still like totally, all the wires are crossed. I need to get
Mm-hmm.
all this out on paper and break it down and see exactly the little tiny things. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you dream so big all the time, it's hard to shrink down into the little each little individual seed, but it's necessary. It really is. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, yeah, I'm gonna post that up. I'll send you a copy, and I'd love
Please.
to hear more about the product you're developing. Because yeah, that was just like a silly little thing I made for myself, and I was just gonna post it in case anyone else wanted it. I
Oh
don't.
man. Uh,
Yeah.
I would. I'll share it here if you want to, if you'd like me to, or I can save it for
Sure.
another podcast. So I'm also developing something called what I'm calling a self-discovery guide,
Okay.
which is really what you're working on now, which is a self-reflection journal essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Which there's many on the market, but it's a list of about 31 questions that you can answer within yourself, and they're deep introspective questions. A lot that they're geared the same thing too, is to open up your skill of self-awareness, and
Mm-hmm.
self-examination, and getting that, as we I think both talked about in our journeys, is like a lot of um, progress was made in our life by going inward and evaluating ourselves and where we're at with things. And like, I love that you were having people put like a physical marker as to like, what are you actually feeling, and like where do you see your weak points and your strong points. So I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Mine doesn't have that, but so there's these 31 questions that I curated, and they could be things like which parent do you seek approval from, and did you ever receive that approval or validation, right? And
Nice.
so yeah, and that's a good question, where it allows you to evaluate your relationship with your parents, and how that might have been growing up and now. What makes this journal that I'm creating really cool, I think, is that it also has videos that accompany each question. So after you've read the prompt and written about it, um, I kind of do a breakdown of some of the things that you might be able to learn about yourself from the answers that you come up with. So why is it important to understand which parent you sought approval from, and if you got it,
Mm-hmm.
because you might be seeking that approval now and that validation in other relationships in your life today, and that might be manifesting in certain ways, whether you did or did
Mm-hmm.
not get that approval. Maybe you got too much validation and approval, and now that's affecting the way you approach relationships and stuff today. So there's a little teaching segment that goes along with those questions, and so it's an idea. The idea is that you get the journal and you go through each question, one question a day, for about a month, and hopefully do this really deep dive on yourself and figure out what a lot of your values and a lot of your weaknesses and strengths are, so that you can start the journey of development, right? It's like we first have to figure out what it is that we want to fix or be better at. We have to first know that about ourselves before we can actually
Mm-hmm.
take any action on it. So I love to see that from you. I'm like excited to take it. I'm gonna to do that exercise for sure on yours, and I hope you'll check mine. I'll send you a copy of mine for sure when
Heck
this is
yeah. Oh
done.
my god, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that, especially because I've definitely like tried to buy, I've like bought like journal other things like that before that have
Mm-hmm.
that general thing, but it's like, you have the prompts, or you have the quiz or whatever it is, but
Mm-hmm.
then now what? And then the fact
Well,
that
yeah. What do you
you're
do with that?
putting, yeah, and then it's like, okay, well now buy this course for $10 million, and then we'll leave you with even more questions. And I like the fact that you're actually getting going all the way deep to the source and
Yeah.
really like educating and giving people an actual opportunity to learn and to grow with it. And
From
that
those
is
things.
just,
Yeah.
that is very good. 10 out of 10. I
Thanks.
haven't
Thank
even
you.
seen it yet, but I can already tell if it's half as good as this interview, it'll be great. So,
You're too kind. You're too kind. I
so
really enjoyed this time with you too. I mean, you have such a great spirit and a great energy, and I've listened to a lot of the other episodes in the podcast, and so it's like super valuable what you're doing here, And I'm so glad that you chose to speak on these topics, of like people's adversities, and how that's people are finding strength and encouragement and inspiration from those. And so it's a great platform, and I'm so grateful to have been on here and the time with you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Like, coming from you, that's like a huge compliment. I'm probably like blushing right now because I followed you for a long time, and like, oh man, like having an opportunity to sit down, like, that'd be great. It'd be so cool when we get to, I'm sure at some point we'll have another episode, and hopefully I'll be able to do it in person. And
that would be amazing.
Yeah, because your energy is like way up here too, and it's always so much fun to have, like-minded people from different backgrounds get together, and
absolutely,
it's good stuff. So yeah, and any like last things that you want to say, any final words to the people?
Guys, make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, and like it on Apple and all that. And then also, if you'd like to check out some more of my content, you can find me at RodThePlanter on Instagram. I'm also starting up YouTube. I've been on and off with YouTube, but if you really want to get in contact, you really want to see what I'm about, the best place to go is Instagram. We're at RodThePlanter, all one word. And I'm sure she'll put it in the show notes. And then also look forward to seeing the Discord. I'm starting a Discord group that's called the Grind Gang. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the Grind Gang as well. And like I said, I just appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, yeah, I will link that in the show notes, and I'll like to do like a whole review on your self-discovery guide too, and help you, promote it and put it out there, and anything that we can do to help support you, we're all for it. There's room there's room at the table for everybody. I think there's everybody. Yeah, you just gotta pick up a plate.
Great analogy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Well, you go and enjoy your 100-degree heat. I'm gonna go swim in the air.
Okay. I'll talk to you again soon, Hannah. Thanks.
All right. Sounds good, man. Thank you so much.
I hope you got some insights out of today's episode. Links to all of the products or anything that we discussed today will be in the show notes. Make sure you check that out. Also, give us a holler on Instagram. Tag us in your story, advancement_adversity_podcast. Tell all your friends about this super cool new podcast that you got going on here. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We're having a blast. I hope you are too. My name is Hannah Trueblood. I'll see you next week.